Hello and welcome back to the Awakening Philosophy Podcast. My name is Jed. Welcome. We are about to discover what Socrates is calling a new class of man, a new way of being for mankind that goes beyond all of the previous ones. So the followers, wait a minute. Those that followed Socrates and those that follow the tradition of Jesus or belief, we're going to go beyond them, apparently, because the question on the table is, how can we distinguish the followers of followers that follow in the tradition of Socrates, how can we distinguish them from those in Jesus's tradition? And Socrates said, hang on a second, what if there's a new category? What if there's a new class of man, a new way of being that goes beyond both? Wow. Oh my God, what would that be like? Now, how are we for my audio levels? Let me just keep that stuck there. That seems to be good. Okay. Let's jump in. Well, first, let's quickly review this model of time that we have, which allows us to place this paradigm of thinking, creation, perception, and things. All of these things fall into a use of terms that we can call a self-a pair, whole, part, same, different. Everything we think uses those. Everything that exists uses those. But because there seems to be a principle in reality that terms vary, but relations stay the same, we can also learn more about how reality unfolds by linking it to how our thoughts unfold and how dreams unfold. So, this model of what has to exist, we can use to understand the nature of human problems. So within this Venn diagram, we have a pair of whole and part and an overlap. We see the realm of parts through our physical appearances, through which we derive belief from our family clan upbringing, and we infer a model without words. So it's an unspoken model that we are unaware of that underlines our thinking. So there's a model and then there's an activity. There's a thinking based on a model of self and reality. And as our parental figures were imitating knowing, we derive and they act in an unjust way towards ourselves because that's how the pathologos functions, because belief has to be in opposition to the whole. Otherwise, there would not be a section of cognition that's different from the whole. In other words, there would be no difference. There would be no growth, no learning. So belief is in opposition to goodness and the good. So belief is a cognitive function in opposition to what's beneficial, while creating a fake model of what's true and good and beneficial. So people feel justified in doing their injustice. And it's based on imitation of physical senses. And that's what our parents were in. That's what everyone is in, unless you do philosophical midwifery and dream analysis, which is the activity of higher thinking that can remove our unsuspected false beliefs. So we create a false model in childhood that is in opposition to the truth of reality here, the whole of all parts, and the truth of the whole that is beyond even parts, or the self which is beyond even self and other. So a false image of ourselves becomes our mask, becomes our identity. Our life becomes a kind of meditation on that, and it's the cause of all of our individual problems. What Socrates has helped us to see is if we don't use the time we have in life, in time, to uncover that false model, you will spend your life becoming more and more entrenched in it, and that will prevent you from experiencing the true model of reality by turning mind upon the truth of reality, or mind experiencing mind, the activity called ousia, experienced as the brilliant light of pure being. Both Jesus and Socrates talked about having experienced themselves. It prevents that illumination of pure intelligence, because that yourself is only a small bean and a bad noodle. If this is goodness, you can't have a belief about you being bad. So therefore, any punishment or sin is in direct opposition to your own intellectual development, spiritual development, and truth. That's why punishment and ideas that justify punishment, like sin, is so fucked. Prevents participation in truth. That's our beliefs. From parts, not the whole. Why? Well, you can only see parts through your physical senses. You can infer the whole, therefore your inference about the whole. Just as you see the chicken, you only see the front parts, but you infer that there's a whole chicken there, and you haven't seen its butt.
Don't be disgusting.
Sorry, chicken butt.
It's sad, and I'm sad for you.
Sorry.
The problem is that you can't reason.
I don't know, whatever. I'm going to get you. I'm going to find you. And I'm going to get you.
So, our physical senses allow us to see the parts or differences or manyness and in motion. So all of these self-duads can be used to distinguish the physical appearances in the physical world from mind, which can bring in together all the parts into a whole. So physical appearances, this part, mind, this part, and self, this part. So all personal problems are an expression of that unsuspected fake model. Why? Because for there to be a just universe, there has to be some potential and opportunity for you to learn. Otherwise, you are going to stay stuck in a cycle of repeating problems and suffering and well, that's what we call suffering. To be stuck in a cycle of repeating the same problems and failures without growth. Torture. Suffering. Therefore, the most important thing we can do is figure out how to surface this false model that causes our problems and learn. You know what doesn't allow for learning? Punishment. So that's belief. Now we can also say, well, all global or societal problems is that same problem projected onto the whole. It's not my belief that my way of being is the right one. It's Jesus's way of being. God says so. Muhammad says so. Lord Zenu says so. The kings claim to be, they get to do all the things and have all the stuff because God says so. They have the divine right to rule. So religion is a terrible institution which is nothing other than the projection of false beliefs, personal ignorance onto others, which is why religion is the cause of so many millions, if not billions, of innocent lives being lost and people being tortured and women being subjugated forever in slavery, justified, etc., etc. Another way of projecting your ignorance onto the whole is through politics. In fact, this is the definition of what it means to be in the right wing. Notice, they are always contradicting and lying themselves, and they seem to only want to benefit their own financial interests and personal interests, and they don't give two shits about anyone else. That's personal belief projected onto the whole through politics and law. We can also say that the preconditions for that negative way of being we call the right wing is the establishment left, because they function without claiming there is no model. So even though they may say, well, we're not believers, they haven't gone through the process of removing the negative influence from their own childhood beliefs, childhood religion of their house, tyrannical leadership of parents. I don't know of any parents who rule by democracy. So they've still been affected. So even if they say, well, I'm not that, they still have the effect of a negative false belief and a negative view of reality, both of which is in opposition to what's true and what's the truth. So they reject a model, a universal model of the whole that's understandable and knowable, that needs to be used for every single politician always forever, and every single spiritual leader always forever. Just as every doctor always forever has to have an understandable model of how the human body works. Just as every pilot always and forever has to have the understandable model of how a plane works. Every profession except for kings and clergy need this, but the establishment left reject it. Creating the conditions for fascists to say, well, we have a model. And so long as it reflects enough people in the population's own personal patho-logos, sick logos, model, they can unleash the tyranny of the many. And we see that playing out in our society right as we speak, or as this has been recorded. So, there is an actual functioning of thinking different from those two, which is fascinating that it's the two sides that you're only allowed to choose from, apparently, for politics, which is fucked in principle. There is actually what would be the one true political party, understanding. Understanding is used to reflect on the model of understanding, and that's what we're doing here with this model here. What are the parts of understanding? How are those parts ordered and structured? How do they fit together? What are they used for? And what should they be directed to for our highest goal? That reflection, using your thinking to reflect on the model, is called the dialectic. That's the skill of understanding. So while belief or materialism, the left, the right, and the left in politics, is in opposition to truth, understanding uses the model of truth in its operation. That's the dialectic. Now, as we can see, there is a section of this Venn diagram, which is the whole that's not touched by the parts, this part of the Venn diagram, or the same that's not different, or the one that's not many, or the out of time that's never in time, or the at rest that's never in motion. Necessarily, otherwise there wouldn't be two things. If the lesser thing could overlap with the top, it wouldn't be the lesser, it would be greater, because it has everything in the whole or the greater, as well as extra stuff down the bottom. Necessarily. This is just pure reason. So we can ask, hang on a second, where does mind come from? And what's experiencing it? So just as the use of thinking or is understanding through the art that we are all here to develop, so our purpose or meaning of life, if you want to use that expression, is to perfect our thinking. Otherwise, our thinking will just be sabotaging ourselves, making us more entrenched in the false model that may have served a purpose when we were young to to survive that upbringing, just as the principle of pathologos, the principle of belief, to be blindly obedient to cave leader and to be in opposition to anything different from your tribe's cave and way of being, may have kept cavemen alive because they didn't venture outside of the cave and get eaten by saber-toothed tigers. Before we had the ability to reason, use language, and reflect. In other words, it may have served an evolutionary purpose, but no longer does, just as our own personal belief and image may have served a survival purpose early in our life when we're stuck in the house, but it no longer does. It's the cause of all our problems. So the real use of thinking is to reflect on the model, which perfects your ability to use it, gaining you the excellence of thinking as well as allowing you to perceive the truth of reality. also called the brilliant light of being, or beauty itself. But as Diotima said to us, as Socrates communicated to us, the message that he got from his teacher Diotima, that's only the starting point, because even that has all of these qualities: beauty, justice, goodness, truth. They're all together in a oneness. There has to be, therefore, some cause or principle in reality to keep these things together as the model. In other words, for oneness, there has to be prior, higher, more fundamental one. For there to be a perfection of all qualities, because this is described in the highest positives, its cause must be beyond qualities, whole with no parts. So the other use of thinking is to revert upon that. What must the self be? As we've seen, our human problems and sufferings are a result of a false name on the self. It's very important to name the self properly. We are trying to do that. Name the self. You're understanding the self. And that is a kind of reflection in the highest use of humanity. In other words, our capacity to reason and think, to use the dialectic or the skill of understanding, is the most evolved thing we have. But this is the highest use of it, to revert upon the model of thinking itself, mind, and the self that's doing it, its cause. So those are two models or essences, and we can give them the name ousia. This one being a dynamic one in mind, and this one being a rare kind of, well, of course it's rare, it's unique. It's this kind of ousia only applies to this, because it's a kind of immediate or instant ousia, because there's no parts. So how do you know yourself in this way is our question. And also there's a question, how does that function? Because in this model we have a model and a function. Our false belief or pathologos belief and image of self and reality, that's unsuspected, but we made it so we can undo it. And our pathologos thinking, that causes the problems. There is knowledge of the model, pure ousia, and the logos, functioning of it through understanding. So our questions are, what the heck is the knowing of self? And what's the highest activity of self? And how does this self cause this model of everything? And how does that model of everything then cause our physical world? And how do we, waking up as video game characters or the main character in our life, waking up down here in ignorance necessarily, so it's never a blame game, we all have a pathologos image of ourselves. In fact, as Socrates shows us through the dialectic so we can see for ourselves, we have to generate from our family clan a false image of ourselves, because it's that very self-image that prevented our soul's further movement and development in the higher dimension. In other words, we evolved down to address our issue. So that's why it makes no sense to punish anyone, because everyone functions through their state of mind. Their state of mind is based on that false model we call belief, and underlying that belief is an image of self. So our problems reflect the model of truth, or vice is a shadow or a distorted reflection of virtue, because we have a false image of self and a false belief about reality, through which we function in our very everyday world, ignorance. Everyone, by definition of being a human being. That's why any punitive justice ideas, or punishing or having power over people to inflict violence through the lie of it teaches you a lesson when it does the opposite, is irrational and anti-human and anti-life, anti-reality. So there's a false model of reality operating. Isn't that interesting? And our job is to awaken a reflection on true model of reality to perfect our dialectic and understanding, and use that even to know the self. So no mind and no self. Of course, you can't do that unless you're doing that third activity, reflecting on the fake model, uncovering it. And the greater you know the true model and the greater you know the self, the easier it will be. Oh, and the greater you're perfecting understanding. The more you know self, the more you know mind, and the greater you're perfecting your skill of dialectic through understanding, the greater you can compare that to the false model and remove your problems. It's a win-win-win-win-win.
It's a win-win-win-win-win.
So our question is, how the heck does self generate the model or mind, and how does mind generate each moment? Well, how does it generate the physical reality that we're in? This brings up Socrates' teacher Parmenides' third song, the dance between the instant and the now. If our eye takes 30-something pictures a second, just as a film projects a picture, and then a picture with a slightly different, and then a picture with slightly more movement, we infer change through our mind. So too does reality work that way. So each moment there is a emerging from this gap called the instant, which is beyond qualities, into the now. And then a return, or there would be the return here. Flashing. Reality is flashing or dancing. So, in understanding how the two come to be, the instant without qualities, the one or the self, and the parts or the many, the one and the many, the self and the other, we have a way of seeing how this model fits causally through time. Now here's the thing. This applies to not just everything we perceive in our physical world, but it also applies to every thought. Every thought emerges into the light of consciousness from the darkness, and then goes away. You know what else does that? Your dreams. And because of this principle, structural similarity is a fancy word for it. The principle of analogy that allows for analogy to exist, that terms may vary, but relationships between those terms stay constant. By looking at our dreams, we have the easiest thing to access that will give us an insight into how the instant, or that without qualities, the self without parts, the pure ousia, generates the many. Where we get our ignorance of self, where we get our false idea of self, where we get the pathologos. And by the way, Socrates says the thing that's doing that generation, we could call the logos. So that model, which we call ousia because it's in all that oneness, we're talking about the activity as the logos because it uses reason and language and it carries you along. It directs you to your goals. Actually, that activity, logos, is also the model. And this activity of ousia is also the activity. Because with your ignorance, you're still reverting upon your false beliefs. Each thought begins with a false image of yourself. That's a reversion upon the model. And this image plays out in your thought or fantasy or tangent within some sort of reality. So there's another reflection on your model. So ousia is the model's essence and the model's activity, but so is logos. So that's interesting. They're both connected in a curious way. Because that model is understandable. That model is intelligence itself. That's the logos. but also that logos or pure usia directs each moment perfectly, carries along our dreams and our goals, but also benefits us. So at the same time, it carries along your personal goals and desires. It's directing you to the best one. That's care. That's providence. So there is a kind of will or selfhood behind each moment and each dream. So, by reflecting on how our dreams come to be in the gap between each moment, and while sleeping, there is a period of darkness, but then a dream comes to be, and then the dream ends, and then there's a gap. Then we begin our REM sleep or rapid eye movement, and we have another dream. That's the easiest thing to reflect on that will give us an insight into how the self or the instant functions through the model of the whole of all parts, mind, divine luminosity, and uses that model to perfectly create the next moment, as well as giving guidance through that moment. Every thought is a clue, every moment, every drama you're in is a clue about those 3 activities you're here to do. Removing your false model, the root cause of your problems, perfecting your understanding by ultimately having that spiritual state of mind called the brilliant light of being, or that higher, the second kind. So that's we call in the book, it's called the penultimate or second last kind of spiritual experience, but the ultimate being the kind of pure knowing of self. So we can distinguish 2 fundamental kinds of spiritual experiences. One sounds more like the emptiness of Buddha's nirvana. Of course, it's not emptiness. They all suffer from the problem of not having the logos and understanding, but loosely speaking, and the Taoists. It sounds like a D, but it's actually a T, T-A-O, but it's spelt Tao, and it's the yin-yang symbol. That's also a cool symbol that you draw on your textbooks. And there's also a surf brand that uses that symbol. And Buddhist Nirvana, there's a band called Nirvana. That's how you know that. Remember that one. Of course, having a glimpse that, again, it's not guaranteed in those traditions because it lacks dream analysis and it lacks, well, everything here. But we want to be able to have that experience and reflect on it in a structured, ordered way to bring that state of mind back and go into it in more depth, but also through understanding. Understanding is the spiritual method. We want to fully have that state of mind, eternally have that state of mind. When you love someone, you don't say to your beloved, I love you so much, I want to be with you for a little bit of time and then you can go away. No, you say, I want to be with you forever until the stars fall out of the sky, my baby. Right? So too with beauty itself. So that desire for eternal union with your beautiful beloved, as Diotima shows us, as Socrates has been talking about, can evolve into that experience of actual union only through dream analysis or, well, reflection on those high states of mind and understanding of it in the afterglow, or as you wake up in dream analysis, or in the afterglow of intimate experiences, etc. So understanding is the key. And because dreams can give us these states of mind, high ones, and this even, and most dreams are about your problem, state of mind, we can see that the dream master must be functioning somehow through the whole. Which also matches each moment to moment. there is some instant that somehow goes through the model of pure light into the moment. But also this matches what we've been learning about reincarnation. After we die, there is a movement into, well, you could see lifetimes as the frames and our afterlife experience as the gap. But we all experience the brilliant light of being to some degree. But to the degree we still have a false image and name and belief about the self, we will reincarnate into another lifetime where we will experience a family where we derive a similar idea, causing us to be forced to face it or play out the suffering of not. So a kind of balance and justice, but that means that not only is there a balance and justice of this through reincarnation, playing out the implications of the cause of your injustices, but this model also accounts for learning. And that learning can happen at every instant. And the best way of waking up to and participating in that learning is through dreams. Dreams are the easiest to look at this model, that because of structural similarity or terms changing, relations staying the same, we can apply it to thoughts, reincarnation, but also each moment. Meaning each moment is a potential brilliant light experience in the transition and ultimate state in the gap, which is neat. But also that brings to light why all of the teachings up to Socrates. Because while Homer says it's possible to have the whole thing, like Penelope and Hercules, a state of self here, a state of mind in heaven, and a functioning in Hades, where we play out our false shadows, our blind belief-based, imitation-based allegiances to vice as the shadow of virtue. Penelope as well has to be even cleverer than the men. Xenophanes said, hey, by the way, this self that you're after is the whole of seeing, hearing, and thinking right now. In other words, even though it's the most transcendent, it's the most immediate and personal. That's cool. So we can always wonder about what's watching. Parmenides says you won't get any of these things unless you master the dialectic. Diotima follows Parmenides and says, hey, by the way, you have love and logos in your relationship. This can be the goal of your relationship, meaning this way of being of the whole, Penelope or Hercules, is a third person in your relationship. There's you, there's your beloved, and you're both focused on this ideal. That's the ideal of human relationships. Just as the self communicates to your individual soul in relation to that model of the whole. So there's a triad. And then after that comes Socrates, who says, by the way, you can't get any of this without dreams. You won't see this without studying your dreams. You won't get the particular material for these three uses of the mind, these uses of your thinking, to remove your ignorance, perfect your understanding, and experience the model of mind and know the self. You won't get those three things unless you do dream analysis. The particulars needed for this, your guide is your dream maker, but also the model of your excellence is the dream maker itself. So the dream maker gives you the particulars while also modeling your excellence, because this high state of self functions instantaneously. That's its activity, and most providentially, caringly, intelligently, in reference to the model, to every single part, every person, and every moment. Oh my God, what kind of crazy intelligence, crazy profound, not crazy, but immense intelligence and excellence would that be? That's doing this every moment and doing your dreams. So we call it God, or the Isekai God. Because in isekai animes, isekai is an anime where someone wakes up in another world and they have to go through some leveling up process usually. Sometimes there is a guide helping them, which turns out to be them in their ultimate state. Sometimes. Isekai God. In other words, you. So, for those 3 reasons you won't, well, for that reason we need to see how it unfolds moment to moment for us to understand the model, to verify this model, and also to participate in it, in its excellence, and gain our excellence ourselves. But also dream analysis is necessary because not only to verify and participate in the model, but you get the particulars for your activity. Also, the activity itself is a kind of prep or practice of taking your moments and using that to reflect on what it was like when you were asleep, or the gap. So dream analysis is a practice of reflecting on the gap, which is what we want to do to see the model and the self. But also we can reflect on the dream maker, who is a master of all of it, which is our ultimate goal. So therefore, dream analysis is essential, says Socrates, but now we can see why, and it brings it all together. After hearing that, Jesus asked, well, okay, then if that's so significant, if dream analysis verifies the model, not just the model of dreams coming out of the gap, but because of analogy or structural similarity, you can apply it to different terms but the same relationships, meaning you gain an insight to each moment, to each thought, to each lifetime. That's neat, Socrates, says Jesus. After we killed you, or after the state killed you for not being a believer in their stupid ass beliefs, what philosopher since you, Socrates, has developed this idea beyond you? And Socrates says, well, the last teacher at the academy before the founding of Christianity through Emperor Justinian, and the murdering of the philosophers and the shutting down of the academy and the removal of understanding for belief in him, the last teacher was Damascus, and he saw the significance of dreams, but we would say because of his own blocks, because he wasn't doing midwifery, which is the name for the use of understanding to surface and the use of the dialectic to remove and surface our ignorance. That's for midwifery. The use of the mind to know the model, we could call that Platonic philosophy. And the use of the dialectic to know the self, we could call that Socratic. Just so we have some names to play with. Damascus saw the importance of dreams, but because he lacked this, he was obviously blocked from integrating it into his understanding, meaning we have the potential to go beyond Damascus. Or Socrates is saying, hey, you know what? There is a new class of man on the horizon. There is a new way of being for people within mankind that goes beyond either followers of Jesus or Socrates. A new way of being which would therefore be the height of mankind's functioning and existence, and could bring into unity everything we've been saying, an understanding of all human problems, all wisdom, the model of justice needed for our society, but also the ultimate goal of knowing the self and how we can participate in it most excellently in each moment, specifically mastered through or perfected through dream analysis. A new way of being applies to everyone because we're all in the same boat, because it's one self, and mind is a oneness. meaning it's the same intelligence we're all participating in. Meaning the next stage of evolution for everyone. The new way of being. Holy fuck. Sound good? Sorry for swearing so much, but oh my god. Swearing.
It's sad. And I'm sad for you.
Don't be sad for my swearing.
Hey,
Hey.
I love this guy.
Oh, well, that's good.
That's anti-feminist, and so the primary purpose of pools is not to murder. It is for enjoyment and cooling off.
If that's the primary purpose of pools, we are seeing the primary purpose for ourselves and our life. Which Socrates is saying might be a new class of man. And that's the topic for today. What is this new class of man? How does it relate to everything we've just said? And how can we participate in it ourselves for our own goodness and excellence, and to function through that, to be a source of goodness and excellence in our relationships and in the world. That's where we are. Let's keep reading. Let's jump in. Okay, let's go back a little bit because there was a lot of stuff here. Oh, there's so much. So much. Where do we go back to? We don't want to go back too far. Now let's go back to the idea of analogy. Relations are constant and terms vary. So the review, I might skip bits and pieces. Relations are constant and terms vary, but there is one dynamic throughout. So in a similar way, what springs from an emptiness and returns has the mark of generation. Okay, let's keep going. If the many is all that is, it has sprung in some mysterious way from the one. How can we say that the one and many are successive, so that in becoming one, its being the many is let go, and being the many, the one vanishes? This is the sacred dance of the third hypothesis. The gap is a most noble expression for the intelligible logos that binds together all things and is the source of all. The gap does not have a experience of time, but it is through it that the continuity of each thing is assured. It's through this gap that the next event has been shaped to uniquely fit the moment. And this process brings into a unity all that is, and it brings to it the next phase of its existence in the most perfect way. And we are looking for the next phase in human ways of being. The moment has been unified as perfectly as an art can give birth to its proper excellence. Then the creative dynamic must reach into the most fundamental mode of existence of what truly is. That's true, because within the moment it's possible to act, and in acting we affect reality, which underlines all that is. And it is this that changes throughout our reflections and contemplations, and carries the soul along, assuring our particular spiritual growth and development. We call that ousia. but you could also call it substance. But substance doesn't carry enough with it. So, it's an activity of self-reflection that affects reality and brings along our growth, but also it's an essence or substance of mind. So both ousia as substance and the activity from it form a unity. That's the question we're talking about. Ousia is the activity of the model, but also the model itself. Same for logos, which is interesting. And there is traffic outside, so I'm going to just close my door, actually. So the idea of the instant, actually... Oh, we're already at the end. Oh, I want to go back and hit some more points. No, we've... Oh. This is just all so good. It's just so good. The power of reversion is the mark of being a human being. Well, let's go back a little bit and start here. We'll go quick. But it's just it's worth hearing again. Where's my dudes? There they are. We have to take a dialogical trip to see what's common to all dreams to understand dreams. We'll do it. I'll go quick. I'll review. Dreams show an unusual intelligence. Yes, but we have to do it in a non-interpretive way to make sure our dialogue is non-interpretive, so no beliefs or debate in there, buddy, but also through a pattern of rational order. That's the principle of dialectic, the ultimate art or use of the logos that should permeate all things. In other words, as relations terms vary but relations stay the same, the use of dialectic is the highest use of our understanding, but also should be reflected in the highest use of creation of each moment and dreams. So, also our conversation needs to be modeled on this dialectic too, says Jesus. So, an ordered pattern without interpretation, but also coming at the right time. Appropriateness. Dreams come at the right time so we can learn and reflect on them. Therefore, what kind of knowledge must the dream maker have that it knows everything about us and also matches it to the spiritual life of the dreamer? The dream maker must have an intimate knowledge of everything, all the problems the dreamer faces, even the things we're not aware of. So it must far excel in the intelligence of us as individual dreamers. But also, it's so beautiful how it condenses so much insight into such simple, beautiful, few sentences and images. Very insightful. Speaking of insight. Right, it has all those things, but there's another dimension present. It's the ability to connect your present situation to your past, and in particular, early childhood experiences. That's needed, as we know, to unpack the origin, causes, and conditions for our making, inferring of our false model that's the root cause of our problems, but also we're here to specifically get and address as a reincarnating soul. So we don't know what it is because it wasn't put into words. It's against words, it's against questions, it's against the logos. But if we find the origin of our problems in our childhood experiences, we can purify ourselves by, like all things, addressing the root cause. Pretty neat. And you know who can give you a direction to that? Your dreams, says Socrates. Dreams also include high and low states of mind, or psychic or emotional states. In exploring the high states, you can open up and surface the full content of enlightenment experiences. In opening up the low, you can make that connection through your past to that origin scene to address your problem. High states, low states. Low states you can trace back to your problem, cause of your problems. High states you can perfect your wisdom states of being. Oh, and by the way, just this act of reflection can bring to mind things you may have forgotten about the dream, which is pretty neat. You're bringing the logos to dreams so you can uncover enlightenment experiences that may have been forgotten or ignored by the dreamer. It's one thing to have a taste of enlightenment, but another to be in union with it. So we can see there are stages of enlightenment that we could make a map for. And we want to be in full union with it, which is what we can do through this kind of reflection on those states of mind in dreams. So even a small state can bring insights into the nature of self and reality, says Socrates in his voice. To remain in that state and discover its depth brings the mind to realize why the pure light of divine luminosity is a dynamic presence. Why? Because the mind is turning about upon itself. So that gives us an understanding of the dynamic of this as an ousia that's always turning upon itself, which we are distinguishing from the other kind of enlightenment experience. No parts to turn around. So what kind of knowing would self have? Self referring to this part here. The whole same one out of time. That's beyond parts difference many in time or motion. Rest is in the top one too. Wondrous to be sharing, and that's when I also say it's wondrous to be sharing this with anybody who watches the channel. I appreciate it. It's wondrous to have this opportunity to read this banger of a book with these banger of viewers. Hooray. And I pressed the button. It said, oh, it's muted. Hooray. Wow. Wow. So, the dream maker must have an astonishing knowledge of the dreamer, but also know the spiritual path for the dream to have the impact it has, meaning it knows the map, the spiritual map, so within which it can affix each individual soul's struggle. So it knows what it needs to bring the dreamer to realize the blocks they face. It's your guru, knows the map, knows where you are, knows what you need. Pretty neat. So the dream maker possesses an art of dreams, to possess a knowledge that also understanding. The pleasant pride of the dreamer offers a way of resolving the problem. Knowledge of the whole map, understanding all the parts, can offer a method of solving problems that benefit. All four are needed for the principle of art. So this is for everything that is an art. Politics, spirituality, anything where you have a skill that has a knowledge to it, has an understanding of parts, can be addressed to make people better. Used to make people better. So it's the dream maker also is the model of art itself, which is pretty neat. So we could say it's the doctor of the soul. Can make a diagnosis of the soul's condition and bring what's needed for its treatment, as well as bringing the soul to understand the art, because it's the Isekai God. I mean, not only are you getting the particular benefit, you're learning the art as well. This is an initiation into philosophy. This way of doing philosophy initiates the dreamer into questions that can revert the mind, turning about on mind or the model, to explore the mind in the most meaningful way. And the same or similar questions can be applied to all dreams. The questions are a pathway to the mysteries of the mind. So, amazing. So we're seeing how important understanding dreams is. Carrying a question means to be on a quest. Good one, Jesus. To keep a question and ponder it, never let go of it, is the doorway into the true life of the soul. The craftsman of dreams not only gives the dreamer materials for the dreamer to reflect on and to ponder. The craftsman of dreams only gives them materials. Right. So everything in the dream is only objects of reflection or clues. The task of the dreamer is to bring it all together and understand it as a unity. So, you don't have to leave anything out. It's all perfectly the way it's supposed to be. What does this mean? Pondering or reflecting of dreams awakens a recursive intellectual ability that matures as it's cultivated, or the real activity of mind to revert upon itself and the model, which is the model, which also goes to the self reverting on the self, and also getting rid of the false models along the way. The blocks to that activity. Awakens a recursive, so this pondering on your dreams, reflecting on your dreams. If you've got a friend in the game, even better. Awakens a recursive intellectual ability that matures as it's cultivated. The content of the dream is the activity drawn from the life of the dreamer for contemplation. The dream comes when we sleep, so it emerges from the darkness into the light. There's our model of how this radar map manifests through time. How does time, as it work through time? From the darkness of sleep into the light of the dream, then passes away again. Upon awakening, we revert upon it as the object of contemplation. That's the best use of the time moment, is to reflect on the dream. And within our sleep, there's a dream, and then darkness, dream, and then darkness. Out of the silence comes a voice worthy of pondering. That's the same as all things, isn't it? Other things, like thoughts, yes. True, the same dynamics mark the very nature of our existence. So by understanding our dreams, we understand existence itself. We can see it in the waking life of man, for each thought emerges and quickly returns to an emptiness. So in the same way, it is out of this emptiness that each perception and thought is framed between successive states of emptiness. The emptiness is only an instant. It's just an instant. Come, there it is. There it is again. Did you see it? It's hard because it's so quick. Instants. Socrates, you're going crazy. Socrates, you are...
4 trillion people are still going to listen to this.
Socrates, 4 trillion people are going to listen to this. And you...
That's weird that you think that.
Are weird.
I don't know, whatever.
Or whatever. The instant is followed by the moment that we could call the now. Instant now, instant now, instant now. Do you see it? Look closely, because that's where you find the brilliant light of being. And in the gap, it's the self. Wow, the instant, wow.
Wow. What if a chimp said wow? I'm going to get you. I'm going to find you. And I'm going to get you. Wow.
Wow, the instant is all that is, and it's in front of us. The mystery is right here. That's the thing. It's right here. Right here. Right now. And right now. And then instant. And then now. And then instant. And then now. Most transcendent and most immediate. Among your followers, who set this out? Well, this is the third hypothesis of Parmenides, actually, Jesus. Each successive moment gives what's proper and due, the kind of justice. In that moment of instantaneousness has no qualities in the instant, but from it comes all that's needed for the moment's change, the next moment's change and development. So notice, our human problems, or the right wing or religion, are all marked with stagnation. You don't change your dumbass religious beliefs. It's always the same catchphrases. The guy on the street saying, Jesus this, Jesus that, is doing the same thing he said yesterday and the day before since he was 4 years old. Same thing for the right wing. They don't want to change or grow or develop. The establishment left are the foot soldiers, or the functioning from belief. No change, no model. Everything is status quo. Same thing for your own personal beliefs. This is the way we do it in my family, and we'll fight anyone who says otherwise. So, in direct opposition to reality itself, beliefs are in opposition to reality itself, and thoughts and dreams, because they develop. Your use of the mind to reflect and ponder on such things as this text and your dreams is the use of the mind that affects reality and causes each moment to be different, because you are evolving and growing, and the source of change and growth is that model which you are reverting upon. So the more you can do that, the greater your change and growth each moment. In direct opposition, in principle, to belief. We want to know the source, and the source is an instant or the self or the one that has no quality, but somehow knows the map of everything and then generates the now. So we have the instant through the mind or the map for the now, and then back out again. This is neat. So in other words, this big map that we started with allows us to understand the dynamics happening in the third hypothesis or the film strip. How is it that the instant has no qualities? Oh, good thing we have that greater map of self, mind, and becoming. Self, being, and becoming. Good thing we have that Venn diagram. So we can understand how in the shit, oh, sorry for swearing so much. How in the heck can that instantaneous be without qualities but have the source of all change? Bringing the two maps together. The mystery is where the source of change and motion comes from is right in front of us, but it takes place in no time. So, change or difference. Like unlikeness and unlikeness. So there is an unlikeness in that it's changed, but there's some sameness, some difference. That's the principle of analogy or likeness. There's likeness, but there's some unlikeness in the next moment. Or difference. Motion, which is in time. Sound like that list of those 6 terms? What are they? Whole and part, same and different, like and unlike, unlimited and limit, rest and motion, out of time and in time. The 6 primary pairs of reason, understanding, creation. The book, the dialogue has gone through these stages. Started off with Socrates saying, we need to represent the whole of us and the different parts. How are we the same? How are we different? On and on and on to, hey, what's the time? How is this unfolded in time? Bring us to our question. What's the next stage in time? The new class of man. So how can that which is not, which again brings in our Venn diagram, how can that which is the same or not touched by difference or limits or in time or parts or manyness, how can that be the cause? And obviously, how does the moment revert back to that instant? Because that's what we want to do to know the self. The mystery is how the source of change and motion comes right from. The mystery of where the source of change and motion comes from, says Socrates, is right here in front of us. In the book, in where we are in the dialogue, and literally. So it's very funny. It's right here in front of us in our conversation, but literally in the instant. So that's a philosophical joke there for us. We have fun. It takes place in no time and without changing, yet is the source of change and development. It is out of the instant that the moment of experience arrives and then returns to its source. Wow, must have harmony, fit smoothly, astonishing precision. Therefore, the creator of each moment and our dreams must be an extraordinary craftsman. Yes! And it must have an internal integrity, of vast proportion, so that it fits most precisely the past conditions of each thing, each thought, each perception. So all of those things come along. There is a flow to your thinking, to each moment, to your perception. And beyond that, it also carries a precision and proportion with internal integrity of the wishes and goals you carry moment to moment. So it must also know about your psyche, your dreams, your goals, your wishes. Dreams, and that's it. Both. That which without qualities sounds like another idea raised earlier, the one. Since you have returned to it, it may fit even more. So could you count this as a possible way of answering the riddle of how the one becomes many? And then we read this. As relations are constant, terms vary. So this coming to be and letting go is the one and many. That's the dance. The two dance a sacred dance. You let go of the many and then you become one. In becoming one, the many is let go of. And in becoming many, the one vanishes. So you let go of the many to become one. The one vanishes into the many, goes back and forth, and it's right here at each moment. You can call it the film strip, or Parmenides' third song, or his third hypothesis. So we've used this intelligence and self-reflection, logos and ousia, which is our activity, which is also the model, to bring it all together. Fascinating. Every microsecond. That's where we are, I think. Our understanding is what shapes our experience. The gap, as it were, in the gap there is an intelligence that instantaneously reverts on the map. So it itself is without qualities, but can revert on the map of all spiritual development. That seems to be the whole of all parts. Identifies each part or soul and thing, providing its continuity with its next step in its path to fulfilling its ultimate purpose, highest goal that we call destiny. Escaping our fate, stuck in our problems, reaching our purpose or destiny. Now, which means in the instant, even though it's without qualities, it can somehow instantaneously know the whole and know each part. So that instant, while it is itself here without qualities, it can instantaneously at the same time know mind or the map and souls or the parts. So somehow, without qualities, it can know the whole. Which is interesting. It instantaneously knows the whole of all parts and all of the parts. Its art, its craftsmanship functions through both, while itself is the instant. So it's the instant, the whole without parts, or the one that's not many, knows the oneness of all manyness into the many. Isn't it interesting? So maybe that's why we say it's transcendent. it's the whole without parts that also instantaneously knows because it's generating the map like a shadow instantaneously. And it's from that map that each moment unfolds as a moving image of eternity. It would make sense. It'd be hard pressed to say that if this is a lesser, greater, and ultimate, the ultimate would not be able to know all this stuff down here. Perhaps we can use our model of thinking here, understanding. By understanding, we can understand the nature of all human problems, because it's a level below. Because all human problems are from a belief of a false model of this, false idea of self, a false belief about reality, tied to a family clan way of being. Always. And we don't have to, it's not a puzzle for us because we've been doing this reflection. In other words, we can know it instantly because we are at a higher cognitive function. And you can use as an analogy, if you like, humans and cows. Like, let's say grubs. Like, grubs have sensation, but they don't have cognition or perception. Let's say they do have cognition. They have the kind of cognition of sensation, but they don't have perception, like amoebas, let's say. Cows perceive things, but cows are in awe of us humans because we instantly recognize what's going on for cows. It's easy for us. Whereas we are a mystery to cows. Because while we have sensation perception, we also have ideas. In a similar way, believers, zombies. Why? Because it's a zombie virus that infects us. So you don't punish the person for having the virus, but also it's a virus because it's a psychic parasite. Keeps you at a low level of functioning like a zombie and a low level of use of reason. Brains. Once you see it, it's obvious. And that's just understanding. There's still that higher cognitive function of the model or mind, and then there's a unique kind of understanding of the self we're wondering about, and the model of self. So this higher one here, the model and activity of self, must also, in the same way we can instantaneously know the model of belief and the nature or the activity of human problems, with the art of understanding, the dialectic, so instantaneously, and we can use that through our art to help people reflect, especially dream analysis. So too, we could say, well, if there's a higher dimension, higher cognitive function, it must know the model of the whole instantaneously and have a grasp of understanding instantaneously, which might be that ideal of the samurai we've been talking about. Function most perfectly without thinking or planning, so an instantaneous understanding. We don't even need the map of the dialectic. It's ours now, just as I don't have to think through English. It's mine now. I see through my understanding. But also, its activity isn't just being in the zone sinking three-pointers when those rare moments that athletes get into. It's a highlight of their career usually. It happens once or twice, maybe if you're lucky. It's not just the activity, there's also an appropriateness that benefits to make it an art, meaning also the model. So a kind of excellence that instantaneously acts understanding, but also has the model. A higher level than being in the zone playing basketball or football or anything else like that. As an analogy to wonder about this question, how the heck does the instant, which is no qualities, instantaneously know the model of the whole, have that art of understanding and dialectic most perfectly to craft each moment and each dream, and also do it for every single soul and every item and object? So this chicken is yellow, and now it's yellow, and now it's yellow, and now it's yellow. But Pikachu in my on my shoulder is yellow and yellow and yellow too. And mushroom over there is red and cream, and then red and cream and red and cream and red and cream. But also every soul, all our desires, our wishes, our goals, and also our psychic development. Holy fuck, it's a lot that it knows. Pretty nice. In a similar way, we can be astounded as a cow might go, wow, how the hell is it? How do these humans know all this stuff that it knows? That's a mystery to us as we cows. Of course, animals are even more endearing because they don't have a pathologos. They're not seeking a false model of knowing to inflict harm on their own species the way humans do, which makes them much more adorable and lovely. So it's a puzzle, right? In the gap, which has no qualities, funnily enough, there is an intelligence. What? That instantaneously, reverts upon the map, the whole map of all spiritual development. You mean the whole of all parts, and identifies each soul and thing, all of the individual parts too, for its continuity with each next step in its path to fulfilling its purpose or destiny. Holy crap. So that, under that whole, says Jesus, justice. That would be the ultimate expression, or the true version of justice. Wow. Yes. Since truth is the hallmark of creation, we can say each moment has been brought into existence through a supremely vast intelligence, Socrates, recursively functioning and knowing itself and the model and everything in a unified way for the unfolding of the cosmos. And as such, it reflects the higher principles in every microsecond. Wow.
Imagine people
changing their positions and improving for the better.
Making ice cream is a good and courageous thing.
Hey! No. Absolutely.
So, not like believers who have one rule for the in-group, the clan group, and another rule for the outside the group. Racists, sexist, the right-wing in principle. Religion, we are the chosen people. Nope, that's not a fucking principle. Or, I want to apply principles to me, don't be me to me, I'm a small bean. I'm a poor politician, don't be mean, don't call me a Nazi, it's mean. Is that a principle? No, only to me. Injustice. To not be using principles at each moment or selectively in support of your own ignorance and belief way of being. Whereas the hallmark of justice, as we got here, is to be reflecting the higher principles in every microsecond. But also, it seems to be instantaneously, so it's yours, like the English language is yours. Imagine justice. Imagine knowing the principles so intimately, recognizing it as a shadow of self, knowing it instantaneously as the whole, and using those principles in every moment. The uniting power from which it has emerged, says Socrates, is the creative activity we call ousia. The unified itself is the shadow of the one itself. The power to bring it all together is ousia. So we have a question. Could we therefore say we've got a model and an activity in each of these individual circles. The whole of the parts ousia is a shadow, or oneness is a shadow of the one. The activity is a uniting power, so through the dialectic we help make people one by removing the cause of their manyness and ignorance and perfecting their own reversion upon the oneness. But also he's saying you can even say the activity and that it brings to a 1 is a usia. The difference is this would be a qualityless or pure seeing or usia, and this functioning would be an instantaneous usia-ing, guiding the way each moment is guided and each soul is guided. Each cow is guided for a good farmer, as an analogy. Each dream is guided. Whereas this usia is a dynamic knowingness, and this activity of understanding uses the parts through time. In other words, it's all usia and logos, only the usia of knowingness is instantaneous, while this is a oneness, which is itself a shadow of a 1. So shadow implies a lesser. As a cow is to a human in terms of their cognitive functioning or states of being, so too the oneness of the whole is to the 1. Maybe that's how it knows it instantaneously, because it's its own shadow. Interesting. So our question is, how do we know this usia and even know its shadow? But ultimately we want to know this self usia, the instant, because it would imply an ability to use the model in understanding from a higher dimension, from a higher cognitive function. We are repeating these questions, and we are saying them in different words and rereading to nail them down, but that's the carrying of a question and continual pondering of it, making us even more and more puzzled, which we just read is the quest. That's the method. That's the reversion. By reverting on these questions over and over again, reiterating them, because how many other people are saying this? None in my life. So it's important to keep it alive, keep wondering about it, keep reiterating the significance of this reversion, keep the question alive, be on a quest. It's a win-win-win-win-win.
Win-win-win-win-win.
The win-win-win-win-win.
It's a win-win.
It's a
win-win-win-win-win. Win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win.
we always be winning,
You'll get a bunch of views.
and we'll get a bunch of views.
The primary purpose of pools is not to murder. It is for enjoyment and cooling off.
Emma's trying to impress her with her knowledge of pools, which is fine.
No.
I don't know though.
Awesome, man.
That's awesome in a way.
But I thought this was actually kind of interesting.
It is kind of interesting to know about pools. So the uniting power from which it has emerged, is the creative activity we call usia. So you want to help someone, you're helping them revert upon themselves, to remove their false model of reversion, and also to revert on the true model, which is mind, but also that instant in the self. The twist is get Shamanai Malaka Milan on the phone, because the twist is it's always there right in front of us. In fact, as an often he says, it's the thing watching it all. The whole. Which is great, but we need to see it and have fun through it.
Where's the joy? Where's the whimsy? Where's the childlike wonder?
So that we can have that whimsy and wonder do. Right?
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, let's go ahead. So, our Socrates philosophy says Jesus reflects the power of that intelligence that your study of dreams confirms. And so this is itself a reflection of that intelligence. We are reverting upon it. We're looking at the instant, the model, and the moment. And the study of dreams confirms it in a personally unique way. You can confirm it. You can remove your problems. You can practice seeing the gap And you can wonder about what the isekai self is of that instant. Isekai god. Pretty neat. The one becomes the all as the all becomes the one in this process. Splendid it is. Well said, Jesus. Well said. Holy fuck. We've said it a few times and it is worth saying. And wondering about. The becoming proceeds and returns, Socrates. The becoming proceeds and returns as it reflects the intelligible order. The intelligence we speak of has another name that we enjoy hearing, mind itself. So, back to our model. This model that is the intelligible order is mind itself, which is why this is the model of beauty and justice. But it also is the shadow of the self. So we can know it penultimately as the brilliant light of being, and ultimately as a pure instantaneous knowing. As the dream maker and the instant knows it. Which is the self. And it's there, right in front of us. Ready now. And it's there now. And then it's now. Like,
If you don't know, now you know.
now you know. Which of your followers has come closest to advancing this philosophy, says Jesus? Damascus is the highest because he saw a reality that can be expressed as the one, and then the unified, the reflecting ousia, and the activity that has given birth to our cosmos. He pressed a high value for dreams, but he didn't integrate it, and we can guess why. No midwifery, buddy. So, we're at an interesting point now that we've nailed it down again, kept that wondering alive. The next step will be a delight to both of us because we've been wondering, how will we decide if a follower is yours or mine? And Socrates says, that's an interesting question, and it's a good enough point, but it may be that we will decide it turns out that the follower you are going to mention is shared by us both. Or could there be another possibility? This new follower of yours turns out to have a view that goes beyond both of our positions. A view that goes beyond both of our positions. Then surely we will become followers of this new candidate, won't we? A new category that may doom all the others. In other words, makes all other categories of human functioning and ways of being redundant, stupid as a dumb cow. Anyone not that, you'll say, Pudding, you're a dumb cow. And that's for fun.
I don't know, whatever.
Okay.
Absolutely gooped.
Okay, a bit gooped there. A new vision of a new kind of metaphysics and a new philosophy. Okay, so this new vision of a new way of being with a new kind of metaphysics that makes all other ones redundant will have Socrates and Jesus as our followers. What is this new category and new class of man? How are we for time? Or maybe we can leave it as a question. Given everything we've said, and given we're recognizing that followers of Jesus, or Jesus as a personification, is what it means to be a believer, and we understand that class of cognition. We've seen that Damascus is in the tradition of Plato. So we've been saying this is Aristotle, or belief, also the tradition of religion or Jesus. Plato talks about this, knowing of the model, and Damascus recognizes the place for the one in dreams, but didn't get there. So would that make... So we can wonder about what would this new class of being be? But hey, didn't we say Socrates talked about this? And did dream analysis? Is there a state beyond this? What would the state beyond this be? What does he mean? A new way of being, or a new metaphysics and a new kind of philosophy that makes all others redundant and silly? Going beyond both of their positions. What is this new class of man? And can you think of something? Considering everything we've done today to bring all of the parts together into where we are as a whole. I was planning on reading on, but there's just so much content here. It's so rich that it's worth spending another episode reflecting on it. Next time, carry that question on along with you. Ponder about it all day, every day until the next episode. To carry a question is to be on a quest. Next time, we will get more into this question. What is this new way of being that has Socrates and Jesus as our followers? You are the MC of this isekai universe. What would it be? A new way of being for mankind. Holy crap. Exciting? I hope so. Feel free to like and subscribe on YouTube, follow on Twitch, join the Discord if you like, donate to the channel, that is greatly appreciated, it's a huge help if you can do that. Link below, and I'll see you with this question in tow, carry it in your back pocket, as Pierre would say. Carry it with you. Not in your back pocket, keep it in your front pocket. That sounds a bit dirty.
Pour much.
Sorry. Keep it with you in the front of your mind. What is this new way of being? And what's the significance of a new way of being that unifies in the way we've been talking about? In the same way the one unifies the whole model, and the model unifies all the parts. What would this way of being unify? Our race? All people? What's the significance of making all other positions redundant? Exciting. I'm excited. I hope you're excited.
Okay, go ahead, man.
And I will see you in the next one.